All right. Well, welcome to another show here, the Red Arrow Addiction. My name is Todd DeCapua. I am joined by Jared Mccoy, and just kind of a bit of a happenstance the way that Jared and I met. But what we're going to do here today, this is going to be about a 30-minute conversation. Kind of really want to focus on like a message. It's going to cover off a little bit on bear archery, a bit on hunting, some of our passions, share some stories with you guys, help to influence you in a positive way in your daily walk. So I know this will take all kinds of shapes and forms. Jared and I have promised each other we're going to get back together again. You know, now it's kind of springtime. We're just getting into May of 2022. We're all looking forward to TAC. So Total Archery Challenge is coming up. A bunch of 3Ds are coming up. I actually still have a couple 2 weeks of severe crop damage for whitetail here in Delaware. And then, of course, we got hunting season right around the corner. So all that is coming up, and Jared and I are going to have a whole lot to talk about, I think. So, Jared, I don't know if you want to do a quick introduction, tell everybody kind of who you are, what you're about.
Sure. So I'm Jared. I run the pro shop down at the Bear Archery Factory in Gainesville. Um, Hunting is my passion. That's why I do what I do. I get to play every day at work with toys that I get to play with at home. So, but yeah, that's me.
So that kind of brings us right into the first kind of thing we were talking to maybe talk about. So how did we meet? So I was on vacation a couple 2 weeks ago, I guess, and as a Bear Archery Pro staff shooter, I was like, you know what? How cool would it be if I can stop by and check out the pro shop? And what if I could get a quick tour of the factory? So I made a phone call or two, was able to get something coordinated. And as I walked into the pro shop, here's Jared greeting me. And man, talk about walking into a shop where you look around and, you know, here's a perception hanging up on the rack, and here's a 28-inch divergent hanging up on the rack. And then you look over there and here's another bow. And I'll never forget when I was walking out, I said to Jared, I'm like, what the heck is that bow? I've never seen that before. Nope, that was a prototype bow. You know, it's like, you got to be kidding me. So anyway, that's where Jared and I had a chance to meet. It was supposed to be, or what I thought was going to be, a quick 30-minute, you know, kind of walk through the factory really quick and have a quick chat with a couple folks. And my wife and the dog were hanging out outside. And next thing you know, I was there for almost 2 hours. So just a phenomenal opportunity to be able to have the chance to meet Jared. And I said, hey, we should get together and chat one day. So here we are. Again, Jared really following his passion of, you know, being able to do what he loves. And I'll tell you, just a great all-around stand-up guy. Really just gave me a once in a lifetime opportunity to see the pro shop, to see the factory. And I have recorded that and taken some pictures of that. I've had a chance to share it with my kids. I might put together kind of a quick highlights that I can go ahead and share, and I'll end up linking into that once I get it up there. But that's how we met. You know, I guess it's just interesting to me. I mean, I'm sure you've got some phenomenal stories, Jared, of kind of the people who come into the pro shop. I know while we were standing in Fredbear's office, we had a chance to watch. It was a law enforcement officer from the Fish and Wildlife from the state of Florida. And the other gentleman, Neil, who we were with, you know, he spotted that bow probably from 100 yards out. And he said, yep, that's this bow. It's a takedown from, and he spotted the year and everything else. And I was like, holy smokes. But again, I'm sure you've got some phenomenal stories from working in the pro shop. I don't know if there's anything you'd want to share.
Yeah, Neil's a walking book of knowledge when it comes to Fredbear in general. Working with him, which he did for a while. Neil's been there 40 something years. If you have a question, that man's got the answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, working in the pro shop, now it's a cool experience. Retail's retail. You get some wild stuff you've got to deal with, but it's awesome. Having a father bring their son in, 6, 7 years old, and we set him up with his first bow, and the look in that kid's eyes, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Start him down the path of the hobby that is now turned into a passion. That's turned into a livelihood for me.
Yep.
It's so it's so cool to help start that next generation that's going to carry on hunting for us, because if we don't do that, it's gonna disappear.
That's
You
right.
got,
Yeah.
but it's not just the kids. It's starting that person into their first bow, whether they're 7 or 70. It's just a cool experience.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I was chit chatting with a fellow shooter, Brent Henderson, not too long ago, and we actually spent almost 20 minutes, 25 minutes talking about what does the Fredbear Way mean to you. And I think what you just shared with us is clearly those feelings. And it's like, what, that's what Fredbear would have done, is he's out sharing the experiences, whether it's sharing some of the films, sharing some of the slides. Like I was there, and Neil went ahead and handed me these slides, and these are from the museum in Grayling, Michigan. And I'm sitting here and I'm getting all choked up now, because here I was standing in the vault, and Neil pulls them out and says, "Here, I want you to have that." I said, "Are you kidding me?" But again, it's that kind of experience that I think Jared's talking about. And as a shooter and somebody who supports a lot of our bear dealers, and I get to go to the shows and engage with customers and people who are maybe thinking about getting their first bow. I mean, there is nothing like it, being able to, look at the full complement of the bear archery lineup and say, you know what, there's something for everyone. And let me get you into a great bow, great value, and get you dialed in and starting shooting. And it's not just putting the arrow onto the target. I mean, it is everything else that goes on behind it. And it's actually working together with people to get them shooting and enjoying something new where they can focus. So that's awesome, Jared. And again, it's something I can totally agree with. Like, I love that part of it. That's why I love being able to go do some works at some of the shows, some of the shoots, some of the dealer events. Like, that's what it is. It's getting out there, and whether you're meeting with a kid or meeting with an adult, but just getting new people into the sport of archery. And again, it doesn't have to be hunting. My middle kid just said to me, she was like, "Daddy, I love shooting a bow, but I just don't want to hunt. I don't want to kill an animal." Okay, I'm fine with that. Like, just keep shooting. She outshot her first boyfriend. I'll never forget that. He came over and I was like, "You better look out," and handed him a stick bow. And she's sitting here with her compound, and she shot the heck out of that. But anyway,
There's just as many, if not more, target archers as there are hunters. It's not all about harvesting an animal when it comes to archery. There's a lot of foam and a lot of bags to get killed throughout the years.
that's right.
And that's just as good as hunting. It's the sport itself that sustains both sides of it.
Yeah. So we probably touched a little bit into that, why we do what we do. A lot of it is that passion. A lot of it is getting the new shooters in. I was sharing a little bit with Jared that I was fortunate. Well, so the other thing is, sometimes you sell a bow and then you're always like, "Man, why did I sell that bow?" So I sold I think it was a 2019 28-inch Divergent that I sold, and it was a 45 to 70 pound bow. Or I'm sorry, 55 to 70 pound bow. And it was one of those where you're like, yeah, and I'm shooting all kinds of other bows. I probably have too many on the rack, but I found another one, and I was telling Jared, I was like, this morning I had it pretty much all but a couple things done to dial it in. And I took 20 minutes or so in the backyard on my range to sling a couple arrows. And man, I got that thing dialed within a couple shots. Again, started at 10, worked back to 20, 30, 40. And here I am slinging on one after the next at 40. And they're practically touching until the point I said, okay, I got to start aiming at different dots. But again, there's nothing like that feeling. But why do we do what we do? I think we covered off a lot on those pieces. But it's also living down those historical experiences that we've had, wanting to teach other people how to work on bows, wanting to teach them, again, what does it mean to be maintaining the habitat for the herds that you're responsible for. And again, I've had those conversations with plenty, like, what does it mean to rake out the trails? What does it mean to put down salt year round? We got fawns that are already being born up here in Delaware. So again, I need
Really?
to get salt out for the does so they can be able to produce that milk with all the minerals in them for their fawn. But again, when people think about that, it's like, really? You do that? Yes. I love the animal. I love what I pursue. I love watching them. That's why partially why I love doing what I do.
Oh yeah. That's, you know, the conservation and the health of the wildlife is a lot bigger part, a lot of a bigger part than the harvest of the animal. You've got to do one to do the.
That's a great point. One of the other talking points that I put in here was like, what is your passion? And it's funny because I'll ask this question as I'm interviewing people for a job interview, as an example. Like, what is your passion? And they're like, well, what do you mean? Like, do you mean related to job stuff? I'm like, I don't know. You tell me. Like, what is your passion? So I don't know. It's nothing that I prefaced you with, Jared. So I know you're getting this thing cold, but
You know,
what would you say?
being outdoors, in the woods, I absolutely love being in the woods. Whether it be in a duck blind on a cold morning or in a deer stand, or just on the buggy riding around with my daughter, out
Yep.
of the house, in the woods. You know, I I hunt as much as I possibly can, and I drag the 4-year-old with me as much as she'll tolerate it.
There you go.
And that's just, I grew up on a big farm. Hunting and fishing was what we did in our free time.
Okay.
So that's what's instilled in me. That's what I've instilled in my daughter, and that's what we do.
Yeah. That's funny. We never talked about that, I don't think. But so my mother grew up on a dairy farm in New York State, and my dad grew up with his father owning a butcher shop. So that's kind of, some of my background is seeing kind of how my parents grew up in those environments. Now, again, that was further away, so I didn't see it hands on as much as I would have liked to. But again, having that in the background, um, but I think you're right. I mean, that where are your roots? What's your passion? My journey was a little bit different, but it was just interesting. My 13-year-old, when we were working down in my shop here, I think we were working on a bow as well as we were reloading some 20 gauge slugs because she wanted to take her slug gun up to the range. She also wanted to take her bow up. And of course, at 13, you'll learn this, Jared. They grow like weeds.
Yeah.
So I had her Cruiser G2, and I needed to bring it out about an inch. So, here we were down in the shop, and she was like, Daddy, when did you start shooting the bow? And I was like, I don't think I was maybe 10 or 11 until I started. And she's like, oh, really? Well, when did I start? Oh, you were 3. I put you on
Yeah.
a stick bow at 3 years old, got you in your compound when you were 10. But I guess to your point about being outdoors, I love that aspect. And I don't care if it's the neighbor's kid, a cousin, a nephew. But I love to kind of grab them. And I know most times I'm not going to see deer if I've got, a new hunter. Again, teaching them about scent control and teaching them about noise and everything else. But again, finding that ground blind and pulling them in and having them have that experience. I had a fox probably 2 years ago with my nephew, and we had a fox come right down behind us, and I hear something brush up against the blind. And sure enough, we look at it running down the field, but it was the fox that ran right past our blind so close that it rubbed against it the entire way down. And I was like, man, and he goes, was that fox? I said, yeah. He goes, I can't believe that. I've never seen that close. I said, yep. And I said, get ready for your next experience. Cause again, it's that passion that I have for, I think it's being in front of people, sharing this with other people and being able to have them watch it and see that experience and honestly to teach them. So whether it's teaching them how to work on a bow, teaching them how to shoot, teaching them how to hunt.
Yeah, that's it. Just sharing that experience, sharing that knowledge.
Yeah.
I told you when we were in Neil's office, probably the second time I ever took my wife with me, we sat in a ground blind up against a gate overlooking a peanut field. And there was probably 30 deer out in the peanut field. And we just so happened to look up, and a little 6-point walked in front of the ground blind and stuck his head in the ground blind.
That's right.
Second time she's ever been, she looks over at me just petrified. And go boo, and he'd like to have fell sideways getting out of that ground line. But
Oh my,
man, it's the experience that you have when the animals, when you're in their element and they don't know that you're there.
that's right.
You see some awesome stuff. I've killed piles of coyotes over a turkey decoy, and I've had bobcats absolutely go wild on them. You don't see that unless you're sitting there quiet, still, and doing what you're supposed to do for them to do their part.
That's right. Now, thank you for reminding me that. I did forget about that. That's right. We're trading a couple stories there. Again, the surreal nature of that experience, I can't thank you enough. But I mean, here we are standing. We were probably BSing in Fred's office for over an
Yeah.
hour, but swapping stories like this. And yeah, that story of, you sitting there with your wife and having a 6-pointer stick its head right into the blind and, hey, what are you guys doing in here? The peanut field was another one. So again, me growing up in Delaware, we don't have any peanut fields. I can tell you, we've got soybean, we got corn, we got all that. But when I was driving, we were down on the West Coast driving straight up to Gainesville, and just even that journey right there, it's just peanut field after peanut field and lots of beautiful wildflowers and everything else. But are you able to bow hunt over the peanut fields, or is that more of like a slug gun or rifle?
You can. Perks of Florida, we hunt over feeders.
Okay.
We do it different on our farm. We are strict management. We try to shoot 5.5-year-old bucks or bigger, which isn't a popular thing in Florida.
Yeah.
A lot of smaller bucks get killed, which, if that's what makes you happy, it's hunting. I'll never shame of killing a small deer. It's whatever makes you happy.
Yeah.
But so we have feeders. I bow hunted the peanut fields when we planted them. Now we just do watermelons.
Okay.
It's kind of like hunting soybean fields, though. You got to figure out where they're coming in from and they're coming out from, because you're not going to kill them in the middle of it.
Yep.
But those peanuts are so high in protein that when they're planted, you just see an absolute blast in antler growth.
No kidding.
It's awesome thing to watch. But yeah, I shot some deer off the peanut fields. But once they pick them, the peanut field's done, and they normally about the second week of bow season.
When
normally about sometime in August or early September, and our bow season opens about the third weekend of September every year.
Okay. Man, that's a bummer.
Hey, it is and it isn't. Yeah. I'd rather kill them than an oak hammock. It's prettier.
Yeah, this is true. Nice. I guess one of the other things that we were going to kind of maybe get into is, how do we support and grow the sport of archery, hunting, why? And I know we've talked about a lot of things. Some of the opportunities that I love, in Delaware, we've got something called the Master Hunter Program. With that, there was some legislation that was passed not too long ago where it allows us to, take new shooters to the sport out. And again, it's something that is new in Delaware. And it's something that's afforded us a chance. Again, you have to take the hunter safety course, you have to do this, that, and the other. But if you go with me, I can take you out once to have that experience before, go ahead and having having to go through all the licensing, the training, buying all of your equipment, et cetera, which again, that seems to be another thing is, if I'm teaching somebody how to shoot, I often will have something on the rack at my house that I can just kind of go in and say, hey, let me give you the deal of the century on a bow. I want to get you set up. I want to get you shooting. So those are kind of two of the quick things, I guess, of things I can point to immediately and say, hey, here's some things I'm doing to try to help support and grow that sport of archery and hunting.
Yeah. Then, like I said, we touched on it. The biggest thing is getting the youngins involved.
Yep.
Because the older generation's only going to get so old, and our generation's only going to run so far. If we don't have anybody behind us,
yep,
it just falls off.
That's right.
With me, it's like I'll revamp back to, I feel like I'm beating a dead horse, but it's selling that kid his first bow, or selling a 70-year-old man his first bow.
Yeah.
Even starting late, it's still, if he takes it, he hooks onto it. Well, he's got 7 grandchildren. Well, now they want to shoot with grandpa. Now you've got 7 youngins shooting with grandpa, and it's growing that sport. That's it. It's just introducing new people. That was Fred's biggest thing was, he was monumental in growing the sport of archery to what it is today. It's just getting it in the hands of the people who don't have it so that they can learn to love it like me and you do.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I mean, I don't want to get into too much on the bow side of things, but I will tell you, one of the gentlemen that I was mentoring this year, he's a sophomore in high school. And, I started him on a stick bow, had him going for about a year and a half. I looked across the lineup and I'm like, what is going to be the perfect bow for him? And I was able to get him into a Fredbear Camo legit that, here's a bow that will grow with him forever. He can upgrade the accessories, but I got him into the ready to hunt extra package. So literally you get the release, you get 5 arrows, you get the field points, the broadheads, you get it all right there in one phenomenal package. And it's not an entry level bow. I mean, this is a nice twin cam bow ready to go with a nice sight out of the box. And it was unbelievable because I just put a couple components together, didn't really have to do much to it. And within 10 minutes, he was shooting 30 yards in his backyard. And it's funny, I keep chatting with his mom and he's like, this kid, every day after school, he goes out in the backyard and he shoots for at least an hour, Todd. I don't understand. I said, yeah, it's an addiction. But anyway, I think you're probably
once the bug bites, it's uphill from there.
That's right.
But no, your touching point on the legit. That legit's a phenomenal bow. I sell a pile of them. And we go back to I can sell that bow to a 10-year-old. I can sell that bow to a 70-year-old.
That's right.
It's everyone can shoot that bow, and they can shoot it for a long time.
Yeah.
And that's what makes that bow so shootable and easy to sell because it's a great option. And for the price tag, you can't beat it.
Yeah. No, absolutely, man. Well, we've covered off on a lot. We're guaranteed to do this again soon.
Oh yeah.
I cannot thank Jared enough for the invite down to the shop, walking me around the factory. And if I could get the hat to show up, they've got these available down in the pro shop for sale if you want to pick one up. But this is the Bear Archery hat, Fredbear Camo. I had never seen it before. And again, I'm getting ready to wear it as much as I can on the 3D course. I know I'm heading up to TAC at 7 Springs. This year I'm shooting the refined Echo. And I talked about just getting my daughter out to the range. What was that, on Saturday night? And up at the club, I can shoot out to a little over 100. But again, I just put that bow together a week ago. I hunted with it the same night that I put it together. That's how confident I was in that weapon. And then not a week later, so literally Saturday, here I am shooting with no problem out to 100 yards. And as Jared and I were chit-chatting, I was like, I was shooting arrows inside of the bottom of a soda can at 100 yards with no problem. I'm sure I can dial it in a lot more. I'm sure I can play with my arrows a little bit more. But, to have that kind of accuracy that quickly with that much confidence behind that weapon, again, just speaks to the quality of, what I'm seeing coming out of Bear Archery. And again, that's the 2022 refined Echo. So you get all the adjustability out of the cams. You get very tunable. Again, this one was right out of the box, shooting phenomenally well.
Yeah, you're gonna have to pry mine out of my hands. I love the way that I've been wearing it out, getting ready for TAC in Tennessee, and I've got it paired with one of the new digital single pin sights and
nice
hip stabilizers, and it's one of my favorites.
That I've heard a lot about the digital. Is funny. I heard it was on the Hunting 101 podcast with Andrew, and he came on and he went through a lot of the new Trophy Ridge stuff, and he went into the digital React site. So if for all you don't know, there's a single pin and there's the Trio Pro. Oh, there it is. You got it on your slider. That's right.
Ignore the dovetail, but yes, this is it.
Custom job right there.
Yeah. Work at the job. But yeah, no, I mean, it took me about 10 minutes to get this sight shooting 0 to 110 yards. I mean, sight in your 20, jump on shoot it through the chronograph, input your speed, and you're dead on. I mean, dead on. Your left and right, you notice some things out at 100 that you didn't notice at 20 with your left and right.
Yep.
But at the chronograph itself puts your up and down perfect.
I can't wait. I've been saving up for that one, so I'm ready to buy it. The other piece of that site that was phenomenal to me, and maybe I'm alone in this, but I'm guessing not, based on the fact that it's a feature that's built in, but you can set it up for 5 different arrows and you go ahead and save that. So again, like if I'm shooting my TAC event and I'm shooting my ultralight Black Eagle carnivore, but then I move to my hunting arrow, which is my Renegade, where I'm running a little bit extra up front, again, a little bit heavier arrow. I can just simply plug, arrow 1, arrow 2, and have it all pre-configured. So I don't have to do the old trick where I've got one sight that's up on the rack for such an arrow, and I got a little tag on it with a sticker. And then I got another sight that's already set up for another arrow, and all I have to do is swap them out. But yeah, that was another feature that I saw on that. I was like, that's just changing the game right there.
Yeah, that's a huge feature on it. And I think that's a good selling point on it. Yep. You change the back color of the screen, I think 5 or 6 different colors, go to half yard increments, metric or standard. Like I said, in less than 10 minutes, you can have that bow sighted into 110 yards. Now that's 60-pound refine at 28 inches. On a 70-pound bow, you're probably going to get 120, 130 out of it easy.
Nice.
So, I mean, you can't do that with a normal sight, not in 10 minutes.
I like to hear that. I'm shooting a 70-pounder.
Yeah. Shoulder doesn't let me do that.
I'm getting there. Anyway, anything else you'd want to share, Jared, with folks before we wrap up?
Oh man, I appreciate you having me on.
Awesome. So hopefully you guys have had fun. Absolute pleasure meeting Jared McCoy. Again, the passion he's got, the love for bear archery that he has, working at the pro shop. If you're in the Gainesville area, please stop by and see him. Again, just an absolutely awesome experience just to walk into the pro shop, see what's there. Again, there's prototype bows up on the wall. I was fortunate enough to be able to pick up a Perception, but you can buy one in the shop from what I was told. So go down there and have a chance to chit chat with Jared. But we've touched on a lot. And again, hopefully what you can hear, our passions around getting the youngsters out, getting new people into archery, teaching them the fundamentals, not only of shooting, but again, kind of the lifestyle that comes with everything that Fredbear stood for, and what it means to us. And again, we're carrying that forward. Love to tell the stories. Again, Neil can tell some stories that are just phenomenal. I absolutely would love to be able to capture some more of those stories and get them out there, because again, it was just such rich history and legend